Okay, for today's review video, we're going to take a look at the concept of transubstantiation. Transubstantiation is the Catholic way of understanding the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. We believe that Christ is truly present in the species of bread and wine in the Eucharist. And so the question is, how does that work? And how can we really describe it? So to really understand it, I think we need to go back to the philosophy of Plato and Aristotle, the two ancient Greek philosophers. Plato and Aristotle were both very influential ancient Greek philosophers. Plato was a student of the philosopher Socrates and wrote many of the dialogues where Socrates figures in as a major character. He was also the teacher of Aristotle. And so, in essence, when you look at Plato and Aristotle, you can see a progression of thought from one to the other. And Aristotle really challenging Plato's understanding of the world. Now, in order to understand this, we need to talk a bit about Plato's theory of forms. And in order to do that, we need to look at one of Plato's most famous pieces, which comes from the Republic, and it's called the Simile, or the Allegory of the Cave. Now, Plato tells a story about men who are chained up in a cave, staring at the cave's back wall. On the back wall dance shadows that are cast from puppets on a roadway that stand behind the men. A fire behind those puppets casts the light that provides the shadows on the wall. The shadows on the wall are all that the prisoners who are chained up in this cave have ever seen. It's all that they've ever known. But one day, one of these prisoners is freed. He leaves the cave, he ascends into the sunlight, and begins to see the outside world, where he realizes that his experience of the shadows of the wall was just a very partial, very flawed experience of the actual world. He ascends into the sunlight, he sees the real objects in the real world, and eventually comes into the sun itself. Now, for Plato, this allegory represents knowledge. We have experiences of lots of different ideas and concepts within the world, but we experience these concepts in a kind of a flawed and faulty way because we experience them directly in the world. Let's take, for example, our concept of chair. Now, there are lots of things that come to mind when we start thinking about chairs, right? Some of them are functional, some of them artistic. All of these things, all of these images that are popping up right now are chairs in their own right. Some of them are good chairs, some of them are flawed, some of them are nearly perfect. And Plato would say that each of these things is different, but each of these things is a chair insofar as it participates in the perfect form of the chair. Now, the perfect form of the chair is the idea of chairness, the essence of what it is to be a chair. And all of those things are chairs insofar as they participate in that ideal. Now, for Plato, these ideal forms didn't exist here on the earth, because if anything was material, it was by its very nature not perfect or not ideal. And so these ideal forms were really ideas or essences that existed on another plane of reality. Aristotle denies this idea. He says that everything has within it its own ideal form, its own essence, but it also has its own direct appearance. So Aristotle makes a distinction between substance and accidents. The substance of a thing is what makes it what it is. It's its essence. It's roughly analogous to Plato's ideal form. The accidents are the things that can change. They're the things that aren't necessary for the thing to be exactly what it is. So, for example, my name is Brian Tittle. I would still be Brian Tittle if I had hair down to my shoulders, if my hair was done up in a mohawk, or if I had, a huge 12-inch long beard or something. Right? I'd still be the same person, even though my outward appearance would be different. The outward appearance in most things change. And as long as that essence, that substance remains the same, then that thing is what it is. Now, Thomas Aquinas uses that idea in order to explain what's happening to the bread and the wine in the Eucharist. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video.